Hey, welcome into this live edition of the GASOCast. We are recapping GASO Madness, our live event from last weekend. Fellas, it was great, exciting time to be a part of this grassroots basketball community. Um, yeah. Opening thoughts? I'm going to pass it to y'all before I get into some house cleaning.
Blue, what's up?
um, all that prep that we did, that it came all together starting on Friday night, and the matchups, you put them together, and all three of us had something to say about the matchups. And when you put them on paper, and the kids go out and they perform, it came together at the right time. Plus, people people just played. They didn't weren't worried about the tag at the end of the line, and whether it was a 16, top 16U or a top 15U team or 17. They just went out and they competed. And I think that says a lot about everybody that came into the GASO was ready to perform and play in front of the college coaches that we had.
Yeah, I think we had a lot of good basketball leading up to this point to where some of the teams we've seen multiple times and even some of the teams we saw for the first time, it was a lot of good basketball, well coached. We continue to preach about how much depth a lot of these teams have to where they're playing 8 and 9 deep. And that started to come out and just an overwhelming amount of talent on multiple courts and multiple gyms across the weekend. But when you sit here and plan multiple weeks for an event like this, it gets chaotic, but then when you see it kind of unfold, it's beautiful to watch.
Yeah, Blue and I had the conversation on Friday. Like we had done all the prep work, which is a ton for an open period, and we looked at each other and it's like, we're here. Like this is what it's about. And then when when the games actually get rolling, it's like a caffeine shot of like, okay, let's settle in, let's get into this. There was a lot of high end performances. It was a lot of fun. Now for the housekeeping. Okay, Recruiting Simplified newsletter will drop. Oh, it already dropped. Dropped this morning at 9 a.m. I swear I did it. I have it on auto. But you know, it's a good one. Tap in 18 things you shouldn't do when it comes to recruitment. The Gasso Fast Break will be live on Friday with tons of content, everybody contributing. Michael, you're going live this week on the Acting Bad broadcast.
Yeah, I'm gonna do something. I mean, maybe it's gonna be my ego involved, but I'm just gonna get on and talk similar like I'm talking about this. It's gonna be a lot more names, a lot more players, just a lot more of my thoughts. And just to go back onto the Gasso Fast Break newsletter, it's content. We're gonna have our all Gasso teams, which is I think gonna be one of the hardest ones we've had to do up to date, just because there's so many
I
players.
cheated. I already
Did you?
cheated.
How so?
I did a top next gen team and a top or a top underclassmen team and a top senior team. I just cheated. Like there's
I like
just
that one actually. So we'll
yeah.
all have multiple teams. There's no rhyme or reason. If you made the team, then you made the team. But be looking out for that. But yeah, as far as my acting bad broadcast live, who knows? I might get on for 5 minutes and be like, all right, y'all ain't listen to me, or there's one person on. But we'll see. Another opportunity to talk about a lot of names, and I think this weekend needed more than just a Gasso cast and a couple hoops. So I'm gonna bring the acting bad broadcast to life.
Love it. Love it. Uh, Blue, I'm looking at the list of our College Station event. It looks to be loaded. Very excited about that.
Yeah, it's just starting. I mean, we have some spaces. We have some space available where we'll be taking entries throughout the weekend. Get the schedule out on Monday. Give some people a little bit of time to breathe after this past weekend of travel and so forth. But San Antonio Future, AB Elite, JO3. That's just a couple off the top of my head to mention here.
It should be a fun weekend. But now let's talk about our champs. We always want to shout out our champs here. We're going to try something new here. Michael
And
begrudgingly.
everybody likes.
I mean, off camera, that was literally the only one that I really wanted you to use. I'm glad we didn't do the second and
Here,
third
I'll
option.
just do the applause. It sounds a little sarcastic.
That's like a Charlie Brown episode.
Yeah, we went with the air horn. It just sounded good. But I'm gonna run off these champions. The Next Level Raiders, JL316U, Team Griffin Select Tulsa, Beast Mode, Pro Skills 2025 Patel, True Players B-Ball Club, Oak Cliff Stars, Roadrunners Dynasty, and ATX Just Hoop. It was an awesome weekend. We had 9 brackets going hard.
I think one of the things about like the fun part about seeing these championships come into play is that a lot of the matchups prior, like the quarterfinals and semifinals, it had the same kind of feel of a championship game. So as we start running the event and we have so many teams and so many games going on, you're like, oh, that's the championship game. I thought last one was the championship game, which says a lot about the talent and some of the teams that finished second, third, and fourth. Sometimes those semifinal games were just as close and anything could have happened. So shout out to those champions for sure.
Yeah, if you throw these tournaments into a blender, like they come out different ways consistently. But let's talk players here. Everybody knows that's our favorite part, anyways. The producers, production match, the hype. I love this section because you go in with some expectations. Unfortunately, sometimes it's human nature, but when somebody like meets those expectations, it's really really fun to watch. So, Michael, I'm going to pass this one to you to start.
Yeah. Barrick Jones, Dale Star, Mass, you put me on this kid. And I was excited to see just how he moved. 6'8", 6'9", long, lanky. I want to see how he uses length. And right away, like we always talk about sometimes you have 5 minutes because we're watching so much basketball to leave an impression. And that's the same way with college coaches too. Like always be undeniable when you're on the court, and right away the dunk he had on the baseline, it just looked different. He takes out outside the block, the way he hangs on the rim. He utilizes the length, athleticism, all that. So right away, I was able to like stamp the approval for like, okay, you're not just going to be 6'9". It's not going to be a name that looks good on paper. You're going to be long, lanky, and get right to it on both sides of the basketball. So shout out to you, Mr. Jones.
That's a good one. Blue?
Matthias Bay of True Players.
Well,
Players.
see, this isn't fair because I can't go say 6'9", long and lanky, and you come out with a 7'2".
Well, I don't know if it's a Mr. Obvious here, but goodness, he had a lot of size, and we had heard from their coaches and saw a couple things online, and we were excited to see him. I mean, and he at 7'2", we've seen some 7'2s that can't chew gum and run at the same time, but this guy he was producing, and he did what he was supposed to: protect the rim, rebound, score around the basket, run the floor, and so those kind of quick 3 to 4 check marks. He went out there and he got it done. You see a guy with that size, you want to see some production, and he did.
I'm going to go with Devin Falk Ramirez of Latino Select. Really good performance this weekend. Point guard. He's just really steady, calm, knows how to pick and choose his spots. When I was watching him, I don't think he missed very many shots. And a lot of the stuff was inside out threes or he'd get to the paint and pitch. He was just very secure in who he was as a player, made plays for others, table set guy, but when it was time to score, he could do it. I really enjoyed watching him. Good player and a great performance. They were like, I think, a point or two away from a championship there. I would love to see them again. Really, really good group. Moving on. Teams you couldn't stop watching. Blueser.
Southern Assault Metro. They played the last game of the night on Saturday night when y'all two walked in on Sunday morning. That was one of the first things I asked y'all if y'all had seen them, and y'all had. But I went back and I saw them again, and just they have size, they have quickness, they have speed, they have ball handlers. Trey Hall, who you'll talk about, I believe, a little bit later, Mass. Wow, what a talent! I mean, he hit 32 in a game, and then you look at someone like Riley Reed. Who can just handle the ball and get up and down the court, and just speed. They had a lot of guys that could do multiple things out there, so that's why I had to continue to go back and watch them. I can't wait to see them again. Put them in kind of different situations as we move forward.
Absolutely, I'm gonna go with Elevate. Damari Evans, Colleyville Heritage point guard. He was a 2026. I saw him a couple times, and this team really complements each other well. Damari took a game-winning charge, which kind of embodies who he is as a player. He's just a winner. Then you got Jacoby Lovings, who his usage rate's out the wazoo. Like, he has the ball in his hands a lot, and it's either an assist or a bucket, and they're pretty buckets. Like, he can create space and knock down shots in a hurry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Michael. Say something.
No, why do you see me? I'm just over here smiling. First off, this was going to be my team before Mass. Mass is an overachiever, so he'll come in our rundown, get his guys out first. But yeah, this team, Jacoby Lovings right away. And me and Mass would do something like, hey, go to court 4, watch this team. and then we'll kind of wait to see which names stand out so we can kind of validate what we're both seeing. Sometimes, Mass, you won't tell me so-and-so's playing. You'll just say, go watch. And then right away, I was like, Jacoby Lovins, has he been playing like this the whole game? Because I walked over and it was like 2 minutes right to it. But yeah, keep going, Mass. I just wanted, you saw me smiling as soon as you started talking about Jacoby. And I think I'll talk about him a little bit later, if not on the newsletter.
No doubt. Amir Williams, they're big inside. Both Kennedale kids, Jacoby and Amir, and they just complement each other well. Amir was a double-double guy this weekend, and this is a fun team going forward. I want to see in higher level matchups, to be quite frank with you, as they continue to move forward. Mike?
Yeah, for me, Pro Skills 2025 Patel. The joke's always been all they do at GASOs is win. And they did it once again this weekend. And it's just one of those squads that, admittedly so, Pranay, their coach, will say, we're never going to match the eye test that matches what our wins are. But every single game, somebody shows up, and this weekend, no different. Just a blend of talent, inside, outside. Just a team that it's like, all right, I wonder this game who's going to be their guy. And we'll talk about a few of them a little bit later. But I just want to shout out a team that just continues to win. In that Pro Skills Patel team, to the point where I had to tell them, I'm like, hey, if y'all are going to keep winning, you need to have a specific X account so we can, because we're talking about y'all plenty. And he's like, what if I just do this and change my personal one to that? I'm like, that works. So
we talk about them a lot, and rightfully so. I want to hit on something a little funny here. There's this play in the high school community right now called Gator, and it's this slip play. Like, it's you go and set the screen, slip, and then another guy follows and sets the screen, slip. And I see them out there running it. And it's like, it's kind of this play that has grown in the high school community that I've seen over the course. And Pro Skills 25 is executing it and getting layups in the summer because the backside help wasn't there a couple times. I just started dying laughing. I looked at their coach. I was like, I know what you're running. And he's like, slips win in summer basketball. I said, yes, they do. They win in high school basketball, quite frankly.
Fun fact, Pranay Patel, who coaches them, is also a dentist. So every time I see him, I'm like, hey, you're going to turn into a coach here pretty soon, huh? And drop that dentist gig. And he laughs every time. But I don't think they've lost in a GASO, or they've just won a championship every time they play. So credit to that group of guys.
Yeah, they're really, really good. Starring in the role, some players who just, it was very obvious that they were doing their thing, and it just seemed to fit. Who's that for you, Blue?
Finley Montoya from SA Hoops Elite. Once again, they get deep into the bracket play, and they just have. I told y'all. I mean, they have 7-8 deep that should be playing basketball somewhere after their 25, graduation years up. And Montoya, he just hits shots. He's great on the perimeter. I mean, and he's just one of those guys that they have that they all kind of fit the same mold, but. Watching him just consistently knock down perimeter shots, push the ball in transition, make smart plays. I think that's kind of the key to their team, is that they work well together and that they set each other up. And then sometimes, when you catch it doesn't matter. I've said this before. It doesn't matter who's playing what game. There's going to be somebody different, but I just love his consistency.
Mike?
Yeah, for me, Marcus Johnson, Texas hard work Pootie. Out of San Antonio Wagner, specifically that second round game that we had against Hard Work and Pro Skills EYBU 16. He really showed up. Assistant coach at Wagner, DeMarcus Richardson, said, yeah, Marcus is always our guy in the big games, and he showed it multiple times this weekend. On a roster that's loaded with talent, it was Marcus's shot making that kept them in a lot of games, and it was off the dribble, off the catch and shoot. He was just always ready for his moment. And he shot at a really, really high clip, so I want to give him a shout out this weekend.
I'm going to go with the quartet of guards from JL3, and I'm literally mentioning 4 names here because this game between JL3 16s and Pro Skill 16s wouldn't have turned out the way it did without these 4 guards kind of playing pivotal roles throughout the game in different ways. And that's James Sanderson, who came in off the bench and provided spark, scored, set the table. You got Jackson Thompson, who was just scoring all weekend. He was really incredible, really efficient. Julius Wilson, who took on the task of guarding Seven Spurlock and other guards and just worked his tail off, made plays, got up and beat a couple shots off the backboard a couple times. Really, really good. And the last one, Elijah Garrett, which he had the shot of the game against that Pro Skills where he kind of got bumped, knocked off balance. Looked like he was going to fall down, gathered his balance and laid it up. I was like, my gosh. So all 4 of these guys were pivotal in that win against Pro Skills, and they all just need to be shouted out because they starred in their role and they complemented each other very well all weekend.
You know what I like about Jackson Thompson is that he's a guard about 5'11", 6 foot tall, and he's getting second chance points in there. That guy is just, he'll get on the boards as he crashes as he comes off the slash into the basket to go finish a play, and maybe he misses it. He goes right back up and gets it and puts it back in. I mean, he's very tough. He is a dude that's just he can beat you many ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and hop in here. I just mentioned Proskills Patel, but I also had Tate Zimkowitz of Lovejoy. When you win at the clip we just mentioned, there's always going to be somebody that stars in their role. And for this Proskills team, it's like, all right, who's going to be the alpha for this game or that game or this game? And just his shot making ability over and over again for them really stood out. So I just want to shout him out. We obviously mentioned Proskills Patel earlier, but the size and shot making for Tate was just undeniable this weekend.
He caught some attention of college coaches too. Like he was really, really stinking good this weekend. I'm gonna jump in here. This is Sid Barla, Pro Skills 15 EYBL. I watched a second half of their game, and he was coming in, and he knocked down a couple of big threes. And a couple times I didn't watch any more full games of Pro Skills, but every time like I would kind of peek over them, he was in the corner bombing threes. And this is a guy he's just a specialist. He's 6'4", 6'5", goes to Frisco, freshman, and he is just automatic from that corner. And it's a guy who, he knows what he's good at, and he's letting those guards, Mason Shepard, Quincy Baker, kind of come in there and set the table for him, and he's getting buckets, and he's feasting off of starring in his role.
Yeah, I watched Dallas, the FAM Elite 17U with a couple of coaches as they had an unsigned senior, Isaiah Pankey, who will be a 2025. But nonetheless, I'm sitting there watching and wanting to watch Isaiah, and then all of a sudden Trey Young from Cedar Hill, he's scoring bucket after bucket. He's a guy that pushes the ball up the court, which y'all saw him with a lot of wiggle going, that east to west style, and then getting inside the paint for touches and scoring at a very high clip. I mean, I was very impressed with him to really, I went in there looking at somebody else, and then what do I find? A 2025 that really is going to be a stock riser for me.
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah, when you and Lyndon kind of come separately to me to tell me about a kid, that's a guy who's caught my attention. Out-of-state love. We had a bunch of out-of-state teams and a bunch of really good out-of-state performances. Michael, I'm going to pass this one to you to start.
Yeah, Jacob Smithy of T. Griff Academy Select. So when I have my video guys and we're all over the place trying to cover as many courts, I told Daniel, I was like, hey, this Team Griffin Academy team keeps winning. Go start over there and get some clips on them. They're doing their thing, and literally within seconds, it's like casting a fish in a catfish pond that's stocked with highlights right away, right down the middle. Bam, dunked it. I was like, who is that? And right away we ran and got the clip up. But yeah, he was the size, athleticism, the strength, great looking prospect. And almost caught another body against that Pro Skills team in one of the games.
We were cracking up about it. Oh my God!
Yeah, and from watching it upstairs, it just looks even crazier. But yeah, I wanted to say that because I know Blue has another one from the Oklahoma squad.
Yeah, here with Team Griffin Select, Khalil Allen, watching him for a few minutes, just his ability to get off the floor with ease. He's just very bouncy, grabbing rebounds, putting the ball back in the hole. When he was running the floor, they gave it to him to go get a lay-in, and defensively he was tough. I mean, it's great when these out-of-state teams come into Texas and are be able to be seen by the colleges that we have on hand, that they're going to start a little bit of buzz and recruitment. And I'm glad that we have this segment to highlight to highlight them, because they are a big part of our GASO here also as they travel in and out of the state of Texas. And so we're very appreciative of them, and we want to give them their notice. And Khalil Allen I wish he was from the state of Texas.
Yeah. And to give a reference point, when we sit down in these games and we're watching these teams from out of state, we have no reference point. So it's kind of nice because it's just the dudes hooping in front of us, and that's just what Jamal Drury did. I was watching him against the Pro Skills 15 or 16U EYBL group, and he probably had about 25 points. He's just 5'11" guard, shifty, was making threes, was getting downhill, making passes, and I was like, man, this dude just keep making plays. And sure enough, I kind of went and searched his Twitter, and he's a really, really good player. And I'm glad that I got to see quite a performance. I want to give that young man a shout out. Michael, your favorite segment, names with game. This is going to be lightning round. We're going to kind of give these one-liners on these players, and we got a nice little list here. Not necessarily hot takes, but just like we can show off a little flair in our takes there. So I'm gonna tip this one off. Seven Spurlock, the most entertaining player in the 2026 class. I mean, he goes hard. He's got the sizzle. Like when he hits a shot, he'll turn around and like put his hands up in the air, like he feels himself a little bit. But he backs it up with how hard he plays. You can never question that guy just wants to win more than anyone on the floor. And I just love watching him. I can't get enough of it.
He raises the level of his teammates too.
100%.
You see that out there with he can give him a little bit of a look or give him some encouragement. It's he's well rounded.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'll pop in here. Jaron Goodwin of DTX National out of Cedar Hill. During live period, it's always great when the first thing a coach says is, I like the way that kid's built. Now you have an opportunity to go and match. Okay, this you looked the part. Then he went and showed the physicality, showed that he was able to finish inside, showed that he was able to hit shots. So a lot of times it's more than just that's a good-looking kid over there. Now you have to match that you're a good-looking, strong body, but you're able to go do your thing, and he did that multiple times this weekend.
That eye test matters.
Coleman,
Go ahead, Blue.
I was going to say Coleman Elkins from JO316U EYBL, and you talk a lot about the guard play, but what about him at 6'9", 6'10" in the middle of the paint, getting doing the cleanup work? I just loved him. At certain points of the game, they had to rely on him because the guards were so fast that if they did miss a shot, he was there to put it right back in. Had a couple of good moves with his back to the basket. A really nice long target inside that's very dependable.
I'm going to go with a new kid on the block, and sometimes, I'll find myself just sitting at a random court and just watching and seeing, popping in, and I think Michael kind of coined this phrase. It's like impress me. I'm just going to walk around and just kind of like if I had a camera and I was just sitting watching. Caden Velasquez, Mayhem Premier, 6'5" kid, shooting ability, got downhill, made some plays, and he was definitely a kid I circled and was like, yeah, that's a player right there. I'm going to have to start pushing a little bit to some of these college coaches. Caden Velasquez, Mayhem Premier 2025.
Yeah, for me, Kenton Anderson, Baller Nation, NXT 2026. I watch a lot of basketball, and it's very rare that somebody really impresses me with the way they move and the handle and the wiggle. And the lefty, he has all of it. The shift, every time you're watching, like, oh my gosh, look at that move. His ability to stop on the dime, hit the three, carve off the pick and roll. If there's any type of miscommunication between the guard and the big trying to decide who you're switching on, he already beat. But he just continues to show that there is a real killer out there in Tyler, Texas, that has real go. So Kenton Anderson, shout out to you.
Yes, you do watch a lot of basketball, Michael, because at one point on Sunday you go, hey, Blue, I need you to watch number 4, 6, and 2, those courts. And I'm like, okay, let me see what I can do.
That more sounds like my background in like watching horse racing.
It was down the stretch that I did have to watch some games there, but Jarius Jackson, kind of a low-hanging fruit with 41 points, 7 3-pointers, and I believe that would have been his first game of the GASO brackets. But it's just every single game this guy is putting up shot after shot, hitting big threes, and it's just him using his speed to create that separation and a quick trigger from behind the arc.
Kid is a killer. He also earns being talked about every week. Like, we don't come in here wanting to talk about, the same kid, but when you earn it, we're just going to tell the truth of what happened. And Jarius just keeps hooping. Period. End of story. The kid has earned every piece of publication he's had from our team. So I just wanted to make that very clear. I'm going to go with
Absolutely.
Trey Clark, rhythm basketball. He just looked comfortable. He looked happy out there. He looked like he was competing, made plays, and had fun while doing it. The game I was watching them, they ended up losing, but he hit a big three and had a huge and one to kind of tie the game late and to make sure his team was in a position to have a chance. It was just really good to see. He looked like he was having a ball out there, and he looked loose for the first time in a while that I've seen him, and he was competing and playing at a really high level. Very excited for Trey and all that he's going to accomplish with rhythm and at Wagner.
We mentioned earlier in the episode, Jacoby Loving's Elevate You. He was on the ball, but the gear and the acceleration he had, I was like, oh, this guy can get anywhere he wants. There's a reason why he has the ball in his hands plenty. Getting to the rim, inside scoop, hand finishes. Kind of a lot of guards can get to where they want to get to, but then they all of a sudden are in the paint with a whole bunch of people and they kind of get lost. He knew, if I'm going to get to the paint, I already know what I'm going to do with it. His ability to score amongst bigger, taller defenders was evident. And if you give him a crease, it's over with. One of my biggest stock risers from the event was Jacoby Loving.
Loser.
I'll jump. Yeah. Montreal Chalmers from 3D Team Business. You talk about the length that he has, about 6'3", 6'4". He's a lefty. He's going to stroke it from open areas of the court and also get to the basket. And on the defensive end, he's going to cause some havoc. I mean, he's going to play and pressure you, push his man out as far as possible away from the 3-point line, so they have to catch the ball and make a move. I mean, he's just a guy that you can depend on at multiple spots and to be a leader of this team. And we've talked about him before in the past, but just to see him get back into the groove this past weekend was really good for him and for 3D Team Business, who went 3-1.
That's good. Josiah Saunders, San Antonio Premier 17U. I think he's just a hit in San Antonio. This kid makes high-level passes, high-level reads, and he can score the basketball. 6'1", length. He's a player, and he's someone that I just haven't heard get much pub, and he deserves it because he's a really, really good player. Do not let this guy slip through the cracks.
Yeah, he's really good. And his length, it's like you said, 6'1", and like the length is really there. Yeah. So he can guard, finish as well. I think the length allows him like the stretch finishes when he gets to his layups and things like that. But yeah, definitely one of my favorites in San Antonio. Had a great weekend. Travion Ogborn.
I was going to jump in right here because he was able to hit some threes in his games, and I think that's a little bit of Amari Guetta moving on and kind of leaving that void where Saunders could go in there and take up some of that slack.
Yeah.
Travion Ogborn, Team LOE.
Great name.
This Team LOE is tough as get out. I mean, the way they had to navigate all the way to a championship game in that bracket. I mean, when you beat a hard work Boo Man in the first round, one of the toughest like opening round matchups, then both of those teams are super, super physical. But Travion had that scoring punch from the perimeter. Every time I was looking, it was one of those things like Matt, you talk about when you're walking around the gym, you're stopping. He was always hitting a corner three. And then as the games got tighter and further down into the bracket, attacking and showing his emotion, showing his physicality. Just one of those undeniable prospects that every time I seem to look at their court this weekend and they won a ton of games, it was always Travion making really, really big impacts.
Timothy Johnson from Shelby County Cave, who was from Center High School. Goodness. He uses a lot of speed and he's quick. Just another one of these guys that where if you can't keep him in front of you defensively, you're going to get lost and have to chase him down. And by that point, he's already put up a shot or so, and he's going to get his teammates involved. A lot of intriguing tools that he was showing out there on the court that makes me want to come back and see him again. And they will be at another GASO soon. And so he's just a player to kind of keep on that radar, and I want to see some more from him.
Mike, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Yeah, Taj Petaway, True Players Basketball Club. I think Mass and I was like, hey, he's about to play. This was a prospect we both want to get our eyes on. And he was one of those prospects that every game he played, it seemed like he got better and better. Now I'll say this: I watched a little bit of the first half. He didn't do too much, but then Lyndon was like, "Yeah, he finished with 23." I was like, "Oh, okay, more incentive for me to come watch." But just once he got the ball in his hands, and at 6'5", uh, every time he started to attack the paint, I'm like, oh, he needs to slow down. But then all of a sudden, there was never a charge. He was knifing through defenders. He was able to use his shoulders really well just to give a little bit of shoulder check into a defender. And all of a sudden, right there, he's at the rim, finished above
Crazy
the rim.
long,
Yeah,
crazy length.
crazy length. Just a prospect. I mean, we're watching a lot of basketball, but every time I watched him, whether it was for 5 minutes in game one, 10 minutes in game two, 3 minutes in game three, I walked away from the court liking something more and more about his game.
It's a good one. I'm going to go with Trey Hall here. Blue mentioned him earlier for Southern Assault Metro. He's a 2026 from Burleson. This kid is coming on strong, and you better be ready to hear this name more often. He's an inside-out scorer or outside-in scorer. I don't know how you want to put it, but the game I watched, he was getting busy in transition and from the perimeter. And then the coach made an adjustment and said, let's put a smaller guy on him to kind of neutralize him on the perimeter. And then he just goes right inside, seals him up, catches layup. Like, I'm talking 3 times in a row, they got him on an isolation inside, and he scored. Not very often do you see a kid dynamic enough to actually pull off a mismatch at the high school ranks, let alone a 2026 or a rising junior or a rising sophomore, I mean. So a lot to like there, a clear understanding of the game, and a player that I'm super bullish on heading into the next rankings and into the future for Burleson basketball.
Mason Wright, Texas bad boy, 16U, goes and hits 10 threes in a game.
He's a bad boy. He
Gosh.
goes with the name. I mean, like, he was counting his threes. This dude had some swagger with it too.
Oh, and so you kind of see that for the first couple of times that he's hitting these threes, and you're like, okay, let's just kind of cool it just for a second. Let the game get into some type of flow. And there he is again, and 3, this and that. And I was like, okay. And like you said, he just started feeling himself, and he couldn't miss. I mean, you're going to leave it. Hey, pick the guy that hits the threes and go defend him. And they couldn't do it. Like, teams just weren't very quick to get out there to contest it because he just let it fly. I mean, he was having fun. When you can have fun and you can take away all your stress of being out there on the court, just go have fun and block everything out. I mean, those are the kind of games that will happen for you.
I mean, yeah, realistically, if I hit 1 3 in a game, I was having fun because I wasn't much of a shooter. You give me 10, I'm having a hell of a ball for sure. I'll finish here. William Gassink of TWE. When you talk about strength of schedules in the GASO, I think TWE 2026 is probably up there with one of the strongest strengths of schedule. We've given them everybody. And I think the more and more William gets a chance to play against some of this top competition at our GASOs, like he's adjusting to the speed. He's turning into more of a dude in assertiveness. And it's just going to bode well for him when he gets back to high school this year because he's taking it to another level. He's starting to pick and choose his spots. It's just all really starting to come together. And he's showing the alpha. I mean, he has some of that toughness, some of that. He was talking a little bit to the crowd this weekend. But yeah, it's starting to all come together for the 2026 point guard.
Hey, that's going to wrap up this edition of the GASOcast. We're going to bring you some preview stuff next week, and then recap College Station. Man, this summer's going fast, guys. We're moving quite quickly. But to all of the people out there that follow us, we appreciate it. Jump on Twitter and get all of our content. Hop on the newsletter and so forth. Thanks for being with us today, and we'll see you next time.